The Strategic Illusion: How the Israel Lobby and Financial Cabal Subvert U.S. Sovereignty through Herzlian Doctrine. The popular narrative of the U.S. Israel relationship paints a picture of two unwavering allies, bound by shared democratic values and mutual interests. However, a closer look reveals a far more asymmetrical and parasitic dynamic, one in which American taxpayers are compelled to fund the geopolitical ambitions of Israel, a nation propped up by an immense financial and lobbying machine whose roots run deep in the global banking structure. This apparatus, championed by dynastic elites such as the Rothschilds and furthered by financial institutions like Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and Vanguard, operates under a vision first articulated by Theodor Herzl, the ideological father of political Zionism. Theodor Herzl's vision: Zionism as a global strategy. Theodor Herzl, in his foundational text Der Judenstaat, the Jewish State, 1896, did not merely advocate for a homeland for the Jewish people. He laid out a strategic doctrine of using diplomacy, finance, and elite influence to establish and expand that state. Herzl believed in leveraging powerful connections within European and global financial circles to secure Zionist goals. His successors operationalized this through the Balfour Declaration of 1917, effectively a letter from British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour to Baron Lionel Walter Rothschild, expressing support for a Jewish homeland in Palestine. This was not simply a gesture of goodwill, but a recognition of financial influence. The Federal Reserve and the web of financial control. The U.S. Federal Reserve, often described as a quasi-public institution, is in fact privately owned by a group of major banks, many of which have historical ties to Rothschild-related interests. Since its creation in 1913, the Fed has operated with minimal oversight, essentially controlling the issuance of U.S. currency and interest rates. Families such as the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and their proxies in Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, and others have played a decisive role in global monetary policy. Institutions like BlackRock and Vanguard now manage trillions in assets and hold significant controlling stakes in nearly every major U.S. corporation, including defense contractors, media conglomerates, and pharmaceutical firms. These firms work not as neutral financial actors, but as power centers that influence political decisions, elections, and even military engagements. They are the true shadow state. The Israel Lobby: Subverting American Democracy, the American Israel. Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, is the most visible arm of the Israel Lobby, but it is only part of a broader influence network. Books such as The Israel Lobby and U.S. Foreign Policy by John Mearsheimer and Stephen Walt document how pro-Israel lobbying distorts American foreign policy, often at odds with national interest. This includes the U.S.'s unconditional support for Israeli military actions, its silence on illegal settlements, and its multi-billion-dollar annual aid to Israel, despite economic challenges at home. In 2003, the U.S. invaded Iraq under false pretenses, a war now widely recognized as a disaster, both strategically and morally. While the neoconservative architects of that war included Americans, many were ideological Zionists, e.g., Paul Wolfowitz, Richard Pearl, whose agendas aligned closely with Israeli regional interests. The war devastated Iraq, cost over $2 trillion, and killed hundreds of thousands, including thousands of American soldiers. Yet it strategically benefited Israel by neutralizing one of its chief regional rivals. Today, Ukraine serves as another proxy battlefield. Billions in U.S. taxpayer dollars have been funneled into a war whose primary winners are arms manufacturers and global strategists. American and Ukrainian lives are the currency used without hesitation by an elite that views war as investment, political puppetry, leaders as agents of the cabal figures such as Joe Biden, Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer, and even Recep Tayyip Erdogan portray themselves as leaders of sovereign nations, but their policies repeatedly fall in line with the dictates of globalist institutions, the IMF, NATO, the EU bureaucracy, and pro-Israel financial lobbies. Keir Starmer has aggressively silenced anti-Zionist voices within the UK's Labour Party. Macron has used laws targeting hate speech to silence critics of Israeli policies. Erdogan, while publicly critical of Israel, has allowed backdoor intelligence and trade cooperation to flourish. These leaders are not independent. They are selected, promoted, and maintained by the same financial structure that controls media, debt, and diplomacy. When politicians step out of line, as seen in the cases of Jeremy Corbyn or even JFK, they are swiftly neutralized by media, campaigns, legal sabotage, or worse. The weaponization of anti-Semitism. Any attempt to critique this interconnected power structure is immediately met with accusations of anti-Semitism. This is not accidental. It is a deliberate defense mechanism. While legitimate anti-Semitism must be condemned, the term has been weaponized to protect elite power, shield Zionist strategy, and suppress free inquiry. Indeed, even many Jews who criticize this machine, such as Noam Chomsky or Norman Finkelstein, are smeared and marginalized. This reveals that the real agenda is not the protection of Jewish people, but the defense of a transnational elite that exploits Jewish identity for political immunity. Conclusion. Beyond the illusion of choice today's political spectrum, Republican versus Democrat, left versus right, is largely performative. The real division lies between the governed and the elite financial political nexus that transcends borders. Israel, as a state, is not the enemy, but the model, a state founded on Herzlian strategy, expanded through financial leverage, and sustained by U.S. patronage, extracted via pressure, manipulation, and misinformation. Until this underlying system is exposed, dismantled, and replaced with truly sovereign governance accountable to people, not banks or lobbies, the parasitic relationship will persist. The cost is measured not only in money, but in lives, truth, and the future of democracy itself.